Good evening, friends. Today we'll start our lecture from where we left. In the last lecture, we had seen that after the emergence of behaviorism, which remained in the vogue for a long period of time, structuralism and functionalism were given very strong contradiction as an undercurrent towards their non-scientific approach. There came behaviorist movement, behaviorism, which remained in psychological domain as a perspective for quite long. As an undercurrent to these behaviorists, there came psychoanalytic, humanistic, and cognitive perspectives. We have seen the roles of these perspectives in our last lecture. We have seen that though the behaviorism remained as a major force in psychology, even after the emergence of psychoanalytic perspective, humanistic perspective, and cognitive revolution. Why we have called cognitive a revolution? Because cognitive perspective not only changed the way psychology was seeing human behavior, not only did it give experimental as well as statistical mathematical foundations, but it also brought human cognition closer to computers. That is seen in nowadays in form of artificial intelligence and machine learning, which are helping the discipline of psychology to shape itself. Cognitivism completely changed our perspective because it had the scientific appeal of behaviorism. It had in it the inclusion of mental processes which were left by behaviorists. It had in it the current trend of inclusion of computers which were thought to be parallel to human mind. As computers receive information, process it, perceive it, store it, and then retrieve when required, likewise human beings also receive information, process information, perceive information, store information, and they retrieve the information as and when required. So the analogy with computers brought it very close to natural sciences, modern sciences. That is the inclusion of cognitive perspective. We have seen that cognitive perspective takes a departure from the humanistic idea which was based on subjective assessment of human behavior. Largely, the concepts like self given by Carl Rogers, the concepts like self-actualization given by Maslow, Abraham Maslow, which were subjective concepts not based on scientific evidence but based on observation. So cognitivists said that yes, we are dealing with the mental processes. Yes, we are dealing it in a scientific manner. We are also not neglecting the role of genetics. We are including the role of genetics as well, as we have seen that human thinking is an outcome of both the genetic makeup as well as the environmental changes. We have seen the instances of sensory adaptation and plasticity of perception, which was dealt in last class. The concepts like these dawned upon psychology because of cognitive perspective. Cognitive perspective is still shaping the discipline of psychology. And as we move from this, and I've told you how to remember this is Sigmund Freud, SF, Sigmund Freud got hit by a ball, cricket ball, and he was supposed to be in a primary health care. Sigmund Freud got hit by a ball and he went to primary health care. This is how you can remember, trace the history of psychology. Most things dealt. Now we'll come to an important aspect which is mentioned in your syllabus as recent trends and 21st century perspectives of psychology. Recent trends and 21st century perspectives of psychology will be our topic number 1 today. Recent trends including #21st century perspectives in psychology. Now, psychology has traveled a long history from the study of soul to study of mind to study of consciousness, studying the structure of consciousness, then studying the function of consciousness, structure of consciousness in structuralism, because structuralism is the first discipline which gave psychology a new meaning, which was the beginning of experimental psychology, lab-based scientific psychology, the father being Wilhelm Wundt. After that, psychology traveled from the structure of consciousness to function of consciousness, from the structure of consciousness to function of consciousness. Psychology started understanding how the consciousness helps in adaptation to the environmental stimuli and the changes in the environment. It had huge impact on education psychology. It was hugely impacted by evolutionary perspective given by Charles Darwin. It is being revisited in the recent trends in form of evolutionary psychology, as we will see later. Structuralism, functionalism, both were thrown into dustbin by an intelligent but outspoken, most intelligent people are outspoken, James Watson, who wrote a thesis and said that what all we are studying, we have not seen consciousness. The methods of observation in case of structuralism and the method of objective analysis of phenomena like motivation is a total nonsense. We have to study only the observable and measurable part of behavior, and we should do all the study in the lab, in the setting where natural sciences are studied. In the controlled environment of the lab, we will get to know the universal theories. The whole discipline of psychology was taken aback. But they, being skeptic, as I have seen, the discipline of psychology follows these: objectivity, skepticism, accuracy, universality. And that is why psychology is called scientific. Why is psychology scientific? Because of these: objectivity, unbiased approach of the researcher, not including demand characteristics, not having experimenter's bias, using single blind and double blind processes, to ensure objectivity in the discipline. Skeptic, yes, we are ready to accept the viewpoint of the others, not rigid that we are following only one point of view. If somebody challenges us as a person of scientific temper, which is also a fundamental duty, enshrined under Article 51 Clause A of Indian Constitution, it is our duty to include scientific temper in our attitude. So if somebody challenges our viewpoint, we must be able to accept it and refute it with great objectivity and acceptance. This is the hallmark of a scientific person. So, skepticism, scientists of psychology being skeptic, they accepted the viewpoint of Watson. Watson was accepted despite the fact that he was speaking in a very arrogant manner. His perspectives were told with the help of a thesis which he gave at one of the university gatherings. In front of the whole stalwarts of psychology, he said that no, we are not studying anything good. The objective of studying psychology should be to see only measurable and observable behaviors. Simple. All the mental processes, internal processes should not be our concern at all. And the behavior is nothing but a response to the changes in the environment. The change in the stimuli in the environment brings response. That response can be broken down to smallest of the pieces, reductionist approach, elementalist approach, molecular approach. Whatever way you name it, it means the same thing. Breaking it down to smaller pieces so that we can understand the complex behavior, and we can understand each and every complex behavior by breaking it down to smaller pieces. This was the assertion of behaviorists. And as we have seen, the behaviorists dominated the discipline of psychology for quite a long time. Even now, the major forces in psychology are behaviorism, psychoanalytic perspective, not so scientific, but still it rules the discipline because of the brilliance of Sigmund Freud. The humanistic perspective, the positive nature of the human being, where the human beings were seen as a whole, not as a part. Their mental processes were not only based on reductionist approach, but the approach of seeing the human beings as a whole, as a unique whole. Their perception is not only shaped by the heredity, nor only the environment, but heredity and environment both play an important role. Cognitive revolution shaped the discipline of psychology for quite a long time. But later on, few new trends which are there in the 21st century, which is shaping the discipline of psychology now, that we will see. What are these trends? First and foremost, your neuroscience and neurotechnology. Cognitive neuroscience or neuroscience. What does it do? What does this perspective say? That we are supposed to understand the cognition by understanding its biological behavior. Suppose the cognition we are talking about is your motivation, emotion. These are the things of the cognitive aspect. What cognitive neuroscience or neurotechnology says is, let us understand the biological basis of it. Let us understand the biological basis of it. This is the assumption and assertion of neuroscience, which is the current trend. And you can see through the brain imaging techniques like PET, EEG, we are able to understand the biological basis of the human emotion and motivation. For example, how does the hippocampus or the left oblique right hemisphere behave? Left hemisphere and right hemisphere, how does it behave? Or hippocampus, how does it behave in shaping of the emotion? On which side there is positive emotion, on which side there is negative emotion? How these two emotions are balanced, that's called valence of emotion. Left hemisphere of brain and right hemisphere of brain have different functions. It was made apparent by cognitive neuroscience, which is shaping the discipline of psychology right now. Here, we are taking the help of recent techniques like AI and ML. First is, what are the current trends? First is your cognitive neuroscience or neurotechnology, which we have seen. Neuroscience and neurotechnology. Through the neuroscience or use of neurotechnology, what is happening? Diagnosis, treatment, and prescription of any impairment. If there is any impairment in cognitive or emotional functioning that can be improved by use of brain imaging techniques, cognitive neuroscience. These functions, cognitive and emotional functions, can also be enhancement. Emotional and cognitive functioning. Emotional and cognitive functions can be improved. Now you tell me, through the common sense only, by using this neuroscience, can we not improve the performance of the athletes? Yes, the answer is yes. By using the techniques of simulation, we will see the brain wave pattern of an athlete. Suppose KL Rahul is going to play. The World Cup is going on, World Cup cricket. KL Rahul is going to play. What does it see? How does KL Rahul see when the person bowls to him? The bowler from the opposition team. What does KL Rahul think? What kind of brainwave pattern he is showing? Is it going to improve his performance, or should he change his style of functioning? Is he having lots of stress and anxiety? Is his arousal maintained as it should be? If the KL Rahul is showing this level of arousal, optimal level of arousal, this is arousal, his performance will be the best. But if he is not showing that kind of arousal, or if he is showing higher level of arousal than required, his performance will be lower. So to improve his performance, it is important that he is in this zone, not these two zones. So to manage his stress, to manage his emotional functioning, and not only emotional, socio-emotional functioning, like while playing cricket, his mind should not be filled with the emotional attachment of Athiya Shetty. He should think about the game which is going on there. He should manage his stress. He should be able to take help of the energy of the crowd. You know, players who play such games where there is large crowd, it is very important to use the energy of the crowd also. How will that be possible? There are some people who have stage fear when they see, suppose 500 students in front of you, 1000 students in front of you. There are people who are teaching since very long, but still they get disturbed. Why? Because they have not been able to manage their socio-emotional arousal. Socio-emotional arousal they have not been able to manage. This can be done through the brainwave pattern, understanding of the brainwave pattern through the use of neuroscience. There are various other places at which we can apply this. Definitely we can apply this neuroscience to the disorders, mental disorders, diagnosis of it and treatment. When the study was done regarding the criminal behavior, their brainwave pattern and also the brain structure itself, it was found that the criminals have a different kind of brain structure The brainwave pattern which they go through is absolutely different from what is normal. So they can be given a treatment plan can be there for changing this brainwave pattern through the use of neuroscience. There can be various other practical applications of it. I am just giving a few of them to you. Then from this only, another perspective, another trend which is shaping the discipline of psychology of late is artificial intelligence, machine learning and psycho-cybernetics. I am keeping all these three at one place because artificial intelligence and machine learning are nothing but deep learning, machine learning, all these are parts of artificial intelligence, computer technology. Psycho-cybernetics is nothing but a corollary, a parallel of human thinking, parallel to computers. This is also shaping the discipline of psychology of late, especially the generative and regenerative AI, artificial intelligence, through which we get ChatGPT. ChatGPT. ChatGPT is here. We have NLP, natural language processing, which is inclusion of human emotions into the computers. Human emotions are being shown by robots through the use of natural language processing. ChatGPT is able to give us a decision. ChatGPT is doing all the works what human beings were doing, which robots do, in a much more efficient and very much parallel and very much closer to human thinking ChatGPT is. Though there are certain limitations ChatGPT is having, but still ChatGPT is very close to how the human beings think. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, both are used in these processes. Now we come to psycho-cybernetics. What is psycho-cybernetics, which is shaping the discipline of psychology like anything, and there was a question in this year's paper as well. Psycho-cybernetics is simple. Psycho-cybernetics says that we are shaped by feedbacks. Whatever feedback we get, our perception, our habits are all shaped by these feedbacks. And this feedback comes from subconscious mind. So tame your subconscious mind. The mind which keeps on saying to you, you must be fearful, you must be guilty, you have done this, you have done that. Especially in a fatalistic society like India, where we are devotees of God because we are fearful of God. We are not devotees of God because we are spiritual beings. We don't want spiritual intelligence to dawn upon us, but we are fearful that God will take revenge against us. Why will God take revenge against you? Who are you? That God will take all the pain to take revenge against you? Fatalistic attitude. So we have to tame our subconscious mind. We have to tell ourselves daily by looking at us in the mirror, I am the best. I have all the capabilities in this world to conquer all my fears and get what all I dream of. If one man can do what one man can do, another can do. If you tell this to yourself and your subconscious mind gives you suggestions that yes, you are the best, it shows in your attitude, it reflects in your body language, and you are able to conquer most of your fears and you are able to get the desired results. So do away with your guilt, your fear, your anxiety, and you will be free of the fixations you are having. Psycho-cybernetics says the same thing. If our feedback is negative, we'll be fearful, we'll go towards failure, and if our feedback is positive, we'll go towards success. Psycho-cybernetics. Nothing much, this is how it works. Two perspectives we have seen, which is shaping the discipline of psychology: neuroscience, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and psycho-cybernetics in one group itself. Then the one thing which is shaping the discipline of psychology, which has revisited psychology after a gap of so many years, is your evolutionary psychology. Remember, evolutionary psychology or evolutionary theories, in fact, came in light through the genius work of Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was the first person who told us that to survive we use the methods of adaptation and natural selection. We adapt to the changing environment. There is a natural selection process, that is survival of the fittest. These two things have visited psychology earlier in form of functionalism. So the basic tenets of functionalism are revisiting psychology again. But now the psychology has changed. Psychology has become modern. Psychology is no more the same which you left earlier in form of functionalism. You left your ex there far away. You met after so many years. The ex has changed. Now, this is the modern ex. How is it? Now, through this evolutionary psychology, we are focusing upon few things. That is aggression. We are focusing upon aggression, trying to understand the innate causes of aggression, but not as Sigmund Freud did, that we are innately aggressive. We are born aggressive, the whole genetic makeup of ours is aggressive. Violence is there within us. Now we are seeing aggression, the display of aggression, trying to understand its causes. What defines our mating behavior? That is being studied, because population psychology is also one of the important aspects we have to study. We are trying to understand the causes behind the behaviors like altruism. We are trying to understand the behaviors like ethical conduct, so the subject what we are studying has changed. The idea how to study has changed, but the underpinnings remain the same, the evolutionary behavior. Through this, especially the study of aggression is important because it will be used in your second paper, especially. We will do that in social psychology, but one thing you must know, we have done it earlier also in our previous lectures, but once again we can revisit, that is called your aggression led by frustration. Frustration aggression hypothesis, Dollard and Miller. That's not important. If you write D and M, that is enough. And even if you don't write the name, that is enough. Frustration aggression hypothesis. You are having a piling up of frustration. Frustration is dawning upon you. The energy, the psychic energy is building up. There is no way of releasing it. You find a weak person, the scapegoat. You release all the frustration onto the person. This is called in form of violence. You beat the weak person. As simple as that. All the frustration released. Frustration aggression hypothesis. These kind of hypotheses, their evolutionary underpinnings, that what is defining this. If you look at the evolutionary psychology, you will understand the behavior of men and women, why they have different kind of behaviors, even when they are choosing their partners. Men, while choosing their partners, are not that choosy. That is, the basic idea by which they are driven, according to the evolutionary psychology, this is not my perspective, is that they choose to spread their genes in as many ways as possible. Women, they have to choose the mate or choose the partner. They will be selective. Out of all the options available, they will choose the best possible. And if you go by the evolutionary psychology, those who can provide the best form of protection, where there is feeling of safety, not only physical safety but emotional safety also. When women feel safe physically, emotionally, they are most likely to choose the partner. Evolutionary psychology, understanding of aggression, understanding of population behavior, various other aspects is also dawning upon the recent perspectives of psychology. What else is shaping the discipline of psychology? Fourth perspective, diversity management. As the world changed and we started moving towards an egalitarian society, we realized that there cannot be only men or only women. There cannot be people from a particular race, region, gender in organizations, in places. World is changing, moving fast towards diversity, inclusiveness. Inclusiveness is driving the discipline of psychology and many other social sciences disciplines. That is why there is a topic of diversity management in gender psychology. Although it is not only the inclusion of gender alone, but inclusion of various other perspectives. That is, you look at, for example, what is diversity management? Army used to be a domain of men only. The reason given was that since men are hardy, can tolerate harsh climate, don't get demotivated if they are disciplined, will feel safe even when the army is attacked by enemy, even when they are caught there won't be any dehumanization as women might face. Then one of the major reasons given was that the availability of testosterone as a hormone which gives men much more strength and aggression which is required in army. But later on, when the perspectives changed, we started moving towards logical positivism, bounded rationality. The perspective changed to inclusiveness, that the army should not only include men, but women should also be there, and women can also do the work with equal or in fact better efficiency and effectiveness. You know, if you look at the startups, despite the fact that women are much better finance managers, the startups which have women as CEO don't find that much of funding because of the lack of trust and patriarchal mindset. This you can put up in economic development chapter of psychology and economic development, where entrepreneurship is your topic. Now, inclusion of diversity has resulted, if you are keen of watching MasterChef, a cookery show, MasterChef, the best of the chefs of India are shaped because of the competitive nature of this program. You see, earlier only men were there. Despite the fact that women cook, in most of the homes, women cook food. If not in urban area, most of the part of the country. Now, in recent years, in this show, the inclusion of women has become 50 or more than 50%. Diversity. If you are a fan of watching Khatron Ka Khiladi, which was there, a program was running recently, you can see the competitiveness of women almost equal, and if it would have been held on other day, probably the woman there would have been the winner. So in the athletic activities also, there is a matching frequency. Diversity. Psychology is moving towards the direction where the society is moving. Psychology is not separate from the movement of society. That is why, to bring diversity into organizations, an important program which we will see in organizational behavior chapter of ours in paper 2, T group, sensitivity group. Small group is made where men are made to understand the perspective of women, women are made to understand the perspective of men, trying to understand each other and mending their behavior, changing their behavior according to the needs and cognitions and beliefs of the other party. It results into more effective management and a much better output. Effective management and much better output is there. Why? Because once the team understands each other's perspectives and feelings, they start cooperating with each other. Have you heard the name of this company, IBM? The policy of IBM is they take 50% men, and that's why 50% of them are women, and they are inclusive of other genders also. But if we talk of men and women, out of the total number of men and women, 50% of them are men, 50% are women. So IBM understands that diversity brings efficiency. Unfortunately, this is not the case with Indian organizations. In most of the Indian companies, if you look at the top echelons, the top posts of CEO, general manager, they are held by male members, men only. Women are left behind, staying at the level of secretary, assistant, desk job. This is what they are doing. You have seen this. This is called glass ceiling. What is glass ceiling? There is an invisible, we can't see the reason. The barrier is invisible. Invisible psychological barrier. If they are allowed to perform well, if they are allowed to prosper, if the main decision makers, so what is patriarchy? The decision making is in the hands of men. If the decision making is not in the hands of men, if the men are not deciding about women, then what will happen? You can see the example in the civil services result of last year. The top 4 women, all women. What is happening? The invisible psychological barrier is now removed. It's moving towards positivity, towards diversity. Diversity management, its reasons, the behavioral dimensions of it, what are the prescriptions, they are all coming through this perspective of diversity management. Another perspective which is very important is psychological well-being. Psychological well-being is the focus of psychology now, major focus. And where it was born? Humanistic psychology. Humanistic psychology says that the major focus of psychology should be psychological well-being. And we have understood that this comes under the garb of positivist movement, positive psychology movement. And what does positive psychology says? The focus on positive emotions, not negative emotions. That is, we are not free from disease. That is not the aim, that we are free from disease. We don't have diabetes, hypertension, BP and all. We are happy. We are happy from within. And mind it, the happiness is subjective. As I told you, there are people who are very fit, who have everything they can enjoy in their lives. But if you look at their perspective, They are not happy because of certain orientations, the sadist orientation, that they keep on comparing themselves to others. They are so sadist in their life, although they have achieved the age of 55 plus, they have done well in their life. They can't see others progressing. They can't see others doing well in life. They will try to bring hurdles in the lives of others. They are away from the positive psychology movement. So, positive psychology says not lack of disease, yeah, Shark Tank is there. Not lack of disease, but having positive emotions. This is our focus. We are moving towards this. These are the trends which are shaping the discipline of psychology, from where will come lot many perspectives through the use of many techniques, and we'll keep on studying these perspectives in our paper too. Now, you must understand this. The last perspective which we dealt, the focus on psychological well-being, it is not only in focus, but the intensity towards this perspective has improved like anything with the use of psychology since COVID-19. COVID-19 changed the whole setup of the world, although many people could not realize that what was the change. The first change was the online learning, edtechs, education technology came into vogue. By sitting here, I can teach you, you are so far away, thanks to the technology. COVID-19 changed the human behavioral dimensions. COVID-19 changed the orientation of psychology towards psychological well-being in a much more intense way as compared to what it was earlier. That is why there was a question in psychology this year regarding the recent trends of psychological well-being. Why there is in the recent trend, in the recent years, psychology is talking only about the mental health. Why? Because it is in the recent trend. COVID-19 has changed that perspective. That should be the part of the teaching. When the classes are going on, this also should be taught. Right? So we have seen the perspectives. Now we'll deal with another topic which we have done largely, but we'll revisit because there is it's mentioned specifically in the syllabus. Psychology in relation to natural as well as social sciences. Psychology in relation to natural as well as social sciences. We have seen this, we have dealt this in detail, that why it is a natural science, why it is closer to social science, why it cannot be called an absolute natural science, why it is a relatively new science, inching closer towards natural science. All that we have seen. You have to use only the 4 parameters which we have been repeating again and again so that you remember it. Objectivity, skepticism, accuracy, universality. These four things define the discipline of psychology, and that is why psychology is scientific discipline. But we have seen, based on the ontology, epistemology, and methodology, where the ontology, what we are studying is human behavior, which cannot be completely defined and cannot be measured directly. Incomplete definition and indirect measurement. Epistemology, the validity, the truth, universal truths. We have seen that the theories are not applicable universally. They are not as valid as natural sciences theories are. Methodology, not the experimental but quasi-experimental and non-experimental research. QER and NER define psychology. We cannot say that psychology is scientific. That is why, as we drew the conclusion that if these two are the axes, this is the abstract science, this is the natural science, psychology is here and moving towards this. With the inclusion of AI, psycho-cybernetics, it's moving towards natural sciences. This finishes our topic. How psychology uses natural sciences? As we saw, when psychology uses cognitive neuroscience, there is use of physics, there is use of chemistry, there is use of biology. When psychology focuses on mental health, there is use of medical science. When psychology talks about social psychology, when psychology talks about evolutionary psychology, there is use of sociology, there is use of anthropology, is it or not? So psychology is actually using, helping both natural sciences and social sciences. If this is psychology, this is natural sciences, this is social sciences. Psychology is helping social sciences are helping psychology. Natural sciences are helping psychology is also helping natural sciences. This is the relationship between psychology and natural sciences as well as social sciences. This is the complete ecosystem, and we have the examples for each and everything. We'll move to another topic. Application of psychology to deal with the societal problems. Application of psychology to deal with the societal problems. See, if we look at psychology, its definition, it's a scientific understanding of human behavior and cognitive processes. So, the focus of psychology is in understanding the human behavior, of course, as an individual at the individual level, and mind it, this is very important. Psychology studies every human being at the individual level, and psychology focuses secondly on the individual differences. These two things. One, it focuses on individual level. So if you look at the society, what is society? This is your society. It is made up of what? Many individuals. So if society is having any problems, suppose in a society of the state of Punjab, there is a drug menace, drug abuse. Most of the youth of Punjab, they are into the drug abuse. One. Or there is a society where alcoholism is quite prevalent. Drug abuse, alcoholism. So in these societies, although the problem is at society level, but won't it be a better idea that we understand the problem at the individual level? The sociology will study any societal problem from the sociological perspective. They will look at the society as a whole. Psychology will look at the individuals here. Psychology will also understand that every individual is not equal. So there are individual differences, ID. Because there are individual differences, we cannot say if the people, like, suppose there are two people, Mohit and Rohit. Mohit is a druggist, Rohit is an alcoholic. Mohit is involved in drug abuse, Rohit is involved in alcoholism. These two are doing two different kinds of maladaptive behavior. The causes are different, these two human beings are different. Their behavior is shaped by different reasons, the consequences are different. Psychology goes to that minute level. Psychology goes to that minute level where they study each and every individual scientifically. They understand and appreciate the individual differences, the differences between these two people. Look at anthropology. They will study the human evolution. They will study the history, your family tree. There are people who will study your family tree. Akshay Kumar's wife, Akshay Kumar the actor, his wife Twinkle Khanna, she has said it on record that when she was to marry Akshay Kumar, she was studying his family tree, which all diseases you all are carrying in your genes. Anthropology is like that. They will study your family tree, they will understand your genetic makeup. Quite descriptive. They don't prescribe anything. Sociology is studying it from the sociological theories, the society as a whole. So they are not reaching to the individual level. Look at medical science. Cause and effect, objectivity, that is true. But only one perspective. That is the medical perspective, the biological perspective. You are suffering from diabetes? Your pancreas are not working. Simple. To make the pancreas work, it is important that you reduce the content of carbs and sugar in your diet. Their prescriptions are like this, but they have failed to understand one thing, but that there is something called, which we have also studied, mind-body interactionism. The perspective followed by Descartes. That through the pineal gland they are interacting in case of dualism, and each one affecting the other, mind affecting the body, body affecting the mind. So how can it be medical only reason? There has to be psychological reason as well, and that is stress. Nowadays most people are suffering from hyper sugar, hyperglycemia, that is diabetes, because of the stress. Because of the stress in their body, there is release of cortisol. So their body cannot absorb sugar properly. That's also a major reason. So out of all these perspectives, sociology, anthropology, medical sciences, psychology says, let us use all. Psychology will study the anthropological, that is, psychology will say, okay, let's study the evolutionary perspective. Evolutionary psychology. They will study the social psychology also. They will use the medical sciences techniques. And then study any social problem at the micro level by focusing on the individual, by focusing on the individual differences, then reaching to any conclusion. The individual differences being the focus gives them a much better, much more objective, scientific and a larger perspective than these disciplines. This you have to keep in mind. How does psychology help in solving the societal problems? Is through these methods. First, psychology focuses on prevention. If we can prevent it from happening, that is the best way. Prevention is better than cure, it is said. So rather than treating a society full of alcoholics, let us prevent that behavior of alcoholism. Let us tell our school children that you must be in a healthy eating style, you must have a good lifestyle where you must exercise, getting up in the morning, take a shower, go out, do some jogging, early morning cold shower, blood flow in your body. You go out, took the fresh air, did some gym. Your body is strong. Prevention. Diagnosis. If at all the disease has been there, then they will diagnose. The reasons of it. If you go to a psychology expert, that is a psychiatrist in the mental health ward of any hospital, they will assess your situation, do the diagnosis based on your case history. Then they will suggest that you are suffering from this or the other disorder. Then they will send you to psychologist. After diagnosis will come your intervention. Prevention, diagnosis, intervention. Then the focus will be on curing it. Care. Psychology does not believe that once our work is done, we'll flee from the situation. We'll see the aftercare also, because psychology knows that if a person who is habituated of alcoholism, alcoholic abuse, may do it again, there is lapse of it and relapse of it. Lapse and relapse. Lapse, that it may happen again. You had left alcohol, but one day those friends of yours with whom you were drinking, they called, today is a very good weather outside, a nice movie in our home theater at our place, let's Netflix and watch and chill. Netflix is there, but in place of chilling you are having the booze. Lapse. Then once you are habituated of it, then whenever they call, you keep on going, and after that you become an alcoholic again. Relapse. That is why aftercare is also very important. So, which are the departments, which are the areas in which psychology can help solve the societal problems? First is disadvantage and deprivation. Which includes socio-economic disadvantage, poverty. What is deprivation and disadvantage? There is something called absolute deprivation, where you as a human being don't have the opportunities of growth. Like, there is no proper nutrition, You are born in a socio-economic status that you are psychologically deprived. There are no opportunities of education or economic growth. There are no opportunities of education, economic growth, and social mobility. That is, you are staying at a place since ages. Your generations have stayed at that place only. You have not moved from village to the urban area. You have not been out of your boundary, social boundary, economic boundary, physical boundary. You are tied down to that place only. And if this deprivation continues to generations, then it is prolonged deprivation. Then it would become prolonged deprivation, leading to a stage of disadvantage. Mind it, when you say that this person is belonging to disadvantaged section, it means that not only that person, not only that generation, but so many generations have suffered the deprivation, prolonged deprivation, since ages, since generations. We can include people from scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, women also to a large extent in this various other sections. Those who have been discriminated against, those who didn't have opportunities of proper education, proper growth, proper social mobility, physical growth environment for a prolonged period of time through ages and generations, they became disadvantaged section. That is a part of our study in paper 2. This is prolonged deprivation through ages. Prolonged deprivation when it continues through generations, it is disadvantage. Then there is something called relative deprivation. That is, a person might be having all the opportunities of growth, socially well-to-do, educationally very prosperous, but they have a feeling of relatively being deprived. Suppose you are born in a rich family. You are a boy in a rich traditional family. Both you and your sister born in rich family, but she is facing lots of restrictions. She should not go out at this time. She should not wear this dress. She should not do this, do that. She should not study science. If this kind of discrimination is there, then it is called relative deprivation, RD. So this again the question regarding CSAT and GS prelims test series, we will talk about that in our class after finishing this topic. Although I have explained it and we have put it up on our social media platforms, but still some people are not able to get access to that. But anyway, we'll cover that. Relative deprivation is more psychological than physical. And mind it, the relative deprivation, psychologically speaking, is much more incisive, much more dangerous as compared to your prolonged deprivation. Why? It lowers self-esteem, brings stress into your life, anxiety into your life. You understand? A person with very low self-esteem cannot do extraordinary things because he or she will always be under fear of losing. He or she will never have the courage to face the uncertainties and adversities of life because of the lack of resilience. Psychology helps us in understanding these. How? Simple. Children in disadvantaged section. What is their mental makeup? External locus of control. They, whenever they become successful, they will say, I did not do anything. It was because of the luck I had, I won. When they win, they say it is because of the luck. When they lose, it is not because of the luck. They say, when I lost, it was because of me. Disadvantaged section children. They say, I was not well prepared. I didn't have the confidence. I am poor. I don't know anything. Self-critical approach, external locus of control, not internal locus of control. What is internal locus of control? That whenever required, I will react. Internal locus of control is a very important and interesting thing. However provoking the situation might be, you take things in your control. You don't react when provoked. You take action when you think it is the right time. People may be abusing you. People may be threatening you. People may be trying to put you down. You will not react. You will wait for your time. Then you let them know what you are. That is internal locus of control. I know what I am, I will do what I wish to at the right time when I wish. My self-esteem is intact. I am not reactive, I am proactive. Children belonging to disadvantaged section, they have this external locus of control. That is why you might have seen the children who are there from the disadvantaged section. Apart from the fact that many of them have a stunted growth, you will see that they are always in a fatalistic mode, fight or flight mode, always angry, stressed, ready to fight, because they are not only angry, they are fearful. You know, The people who react in the, you go in the metro or various other places, you find in a crowded places. If you go to the right kind of malls, whereas I prefer the Select City Walk, which is in south part of Delhi. There the kind of people who come there, they're not that reactive. If you look at the places where there is crowded, people are reactive largely. You know why? Because they are fearful. The people who have the access to resources, they find themselves in control, so they don't react. Internal locus of control. They are more empathetic, more generous, a smile on their face, more content with their life. They believe the process, whatever is happening is for a reason. They take adversities as opportunities. Internal locus of control. Apart from the fact that they have external locus of control, they are motivational. There are motivational deficits. They don't have intrinsic motivation into most of the things. They are always guided by the rewards which are available there. And they don't try long. They don't have the delayed gratification as shown by the marshmallow experiment, where children chose to have more rewards later on rather than having lesser rewards immediately. Their attention span is very less. Low span of attention. Span of attention is very less. And when your span of attention is less, you won't be able to concentrate into major activities. Since they belong to disadvantaged sections, it is hard to find teachers who can empathize with them. Teachers who belong to their culture, who understand their culture from their culture and language. Who can motivate them? They also have the spark and potential, but they have not got the right direction. To change these deficits, there is a need to use certain psychological techniques. The most important of all is Pygmalion effect. Pygmalion effect says, if a teacher has more expectation from children, children also start behaving in a much better manner. If a teacher thinks and says that you people are intelligent, children also behave in an intelligent manner. Pygmalion effect. That changes their motivational construct. They become more motivated. They know that the teacher expects more from me, that's why I have to behave, I have to do well. Then, teacher from the same culture and same language. Those who can use the same language which they can understand, there is no semantic barrier here. Semantic barrier has been removed because they speak the same language as the teacher also Bhojpuri, Bachcha also Bhojpuri. both speaking in Bhojpuri but understood the rocket science. Culture same. They have a certain way of behaving. The people, the children belonging to disadvantaged sections have a certain way of behaving. The teacher appreciates that because they have also gone through it. They understand, okay, these children might be facing these kind of issues, and they appreciate it. What else are used? Not only using the simple methods of teaching, but multi pronged strategy. What is multi-pronged? Same concept is first taught, then example given, then video shown, then along with the video there is audio. So the same thing is explained in different manners so that it appeals their senses much more effectively. Then what? Specific method of programmed learning is used. What is programmed learning? The whole task is broken into smaller pieces, smaller frames. After each task, there is a lesson. If you learn the lesson correctly, go ahead to the next frame. Otherwise, come back to the previous frame. Do it again. You are learning at your own pace. Self-paced learning. Self-paced. You don't need a master. You don't need a teacher. You can learn on your own. Learning gradually and on your own, removing the teacher from the scene. Self-paced learning, using the methods of shaping and chaining. That is, one exercise you learn, a more complex exercise will be given to you. Gradually you are moving towards the end goal. Feedback is immediate. Immediate feedback. Immediate feedback is given to you. These methods are used for the education of children belonging to disadvantaged section. This was one use of psychology, but we covered a very important aspect of our chapter in paper 2. We will revisit it again, mind you, but I am giving you all these things beforehand so that it gets repeated again and again, and you do equally well in paper 1 and 2 and much better than other aspirants of psychology. This was one use of psychology. Then we will learn about, or psychology has a use as far as societal problems are concerned. Violence is one department, is one thing which psychology deals with. Violence. As I have already told you, that psychology, going by the evolutionary psychology perspective, tries to learn the determinants of aggression, aggression at workplace, aggression at home. Domestic violence. Aggression at home, aggression at workplace in form of harassment, sexual harassment. Both are the part of one, the discrimination which women go through. Domestic violence, although is a gender neutral term nowadays, but primarily when we say domestic violence, it means that we are indicating towards women being subjugated, women being subjected to social, physical and emotional abuse at the hands of men or male members in their home. That is domestic violence. And there comes handy the theory frustration aggression hypothesis. Male members frustrated, male ego one thing, secondly unemployed, thirdly temperamental issue, all the frustration piling up, release of aggression on a scapegoat who is a weaker sex, domestic violence. At workplace, driven by a patriarchal mindset, having lots of prejudice and stereotypes, belief that women are weaker, women don't know how to lead the team, how to manage the team, stereotypes that all women are low performers, all women are supposed to be objectified, objectifying women. Having these beliefs, then finding women as weaker, harassing them without having any thinking of consequences and repercussions, impunity in their mind, leading to sexual harassment, violence. The determinants of violence. What are the cure for violence? How can we cure violence? By understanding, we must give the prescription as well. This is the department of psychology, and it has a specific role. When we do our gender psychology, we will understand these determinants again. Then psychology has a specific role as far as dealing with societal problems are concerned, is understanding the criminal behavior. Now, under this comes two types of criminal behavior. One is your juvenile another one hardcore criminals when they become adult, criminals of Tihar. These are criminals of your correctional homes. There is a difference between these two. Juvenile delinquents are delinquents, not criminals. What is delinquency? You are not following the social norm, not because of your innate tendencies, but you have not been trained to do so. Your low socio-economic status, where you feel relatively deprived and that's why anxious and frustrated. You are rejecting parents who don't bother about where you are. your peer group, whose norms, what are the norms of your peer group? The most aggressive, the most criminal minded person in that group will be seen as a hero. That is your norm of the delinquent peer group. That leads to further, if these things are not treated, what will happen? You become Manya Surve, hardcore criminal, languishing in the jail. What resulted into criminality? What are the genetic determinants? Are people born criminals? As a study was done, the brain imaging techniques of criminals was compared to the brainwave pattern and brain images of people who are doing socially relevant behavior, and it was seen that the criminals have a different brainwave pattern altogether when they are reacting to different situations. There are sociopaths. There are psychopaths who are emotionally stoned. Psychopath more so. They don't show any emotional reaction when the blood is spilling, when people around are getting killed, when there is violence surrounding them. They don't show any reaction. Their morality is completely exhumed, subsumed beneath the layers of their id. The criminal behavior, the consequences, how to rehabilitate them is also a department of psychology as far as dealing with the societal problems is concerned. We will see how prevention can be done, assessment can be done, intervention can be done, and after that, aftercare can also be done. Prevention, assessment, intervention, aftercare. For all the criminals, how can that be done? What are the determinants? What circumstances led them to become criminals? Or are people born criminals? These questions will deal with the criminal behavior. That is application of psychology. One major application of psychology apart from those we have covered till now is in the department of disorders and rehabilitation. How the disorders germinate, what are the genetic reasons behind it, how can they be redressed, is there social influence, there are genetics, and there are precipitating factors. Suppose somebody belongs to a family where most people are suffering from one or the other type of schizophrenia. They have a genetic makeup of schizophrenia present in their personality, but they remain stable because of the environmental stability. The day when stress becomes overwhelming, they'll start showing the behaviors like delusion, faulty beliefs, illusion, hallucination. Hallucination. There is nothing around. They will say something was around. Delusion. Their belief system has changed completely. It is not rational. It is completely irrational. Illusion. A rope is present in the room. They will think that it is a snake. Hallucination. Nothing is present. They will say somebody is sitting around me. Misbelief. They will start thinking that as if they are God. Delusion, illusion, hallucination. In detail, we'll see when we are doing the abnormal psychology, and we'll do it really well, brilliantly, as compared to many other people, and interestingly as well. So this finishes our chapter 1, through which we have done many of the aspects of paper 2. We have generated interest for us to study. Cognitive psychology will do later on, but before that the research methods, which were till now taught as a mathematical formula, I will not deal with it in a mathematical way, but in an interesting way. Then we will shift to cognitive psychology, and we will find the bridge, the overlap between cognitive and social psychology, and we will keep applying in the paper 2, so that by the time our course is up, we are ready to score 300 plus. And many dimensions which will come in psychology net exam will also be dealt in a technical fashion, in a brilliant, passionate way, so that you also understand it. And I have no problem if you also become a psychologist, as many people have, that others should not become. A teacher is happiest when their students do well in life, and when their students go further than the teacher. Only two people can be happy when you are ahead of them, your father and your teacher, a true teacher. So before ending the session, as Sudeshana has asked regarding the GS paper 1 and CSAT program under our initiative, apart from the fact that we are going to have modules also, modules of economy, current affairs, polity, geography, all these which are important for your exam. We will try to include mains and GS both parts under one heading, and it will all be under my direction. So mind it that it will be in the simple form, so that you can understand the concepts, apply it in the exam as required in the exam. Our running test series, CSAT 1 is known as Vrikodar in the name of Bhim. Bhim was known Vrikodar. GS 1 is Gandiv, Arjuna's bow, the most powerful of all the weapons in the world. The CSAT and GS1 test series both will have 8 sectional tests and 4 full tests, 8 plus 4, 12 into 2, 24 tests in both of these combined, starting from November 5 and ending on 5th May, 6 months long. You will have your test where new questions on the new pattern, which are reasoning based, pair based, will be asked. In the CSAT, since the RC section has become so difficult, we have our expert faculties, one belonging to the IIM, who has cracked CAT many a time, then another faculty of reasoning, who has a huge experience of teaching reasoning, quantitative aptitude, and DI, LRQ and DI, for various examination, not only UPSC, is an expert in reasoning. These two will take your course. GS1 papers will be meticulously prepared under my guidance. Apart from the fact that you will be given the solution, the detailed solution of these tests, you will also be given live as well as recorded comprehensive explanatory videos. Even after that you have some doubt, it will be solved one-to-one with the experts through Zoom. So your preparation will be comprehensive and complete. So with this message, we will end our session of today. We will not have a class tomorrow because as you know, as I have already informed, Navaratri festival is going on. Tomorrow is Ashtami. So we have a Havan here which will last long, and we will have a class day after tomorrow. We will start with the research method, understand the intricacies of so-called statistics portion with ease, passion, and do it really well. Thank you very much. Good night.